The man who inspired Tarantino, Scorsese, John Woo, and Michael Mann before they were even born. He's the bridge between Hollywood noir and French New Wave cool, obsessed with codes of honor, loyalty, silence, and the inevitability of death. He made movies about gangsters and resistance fighters, but they were always really about men at war with themselves. He wasn't part of the French New Wave, but they all worshipped him. His key films are Le Samouraï, a hitman, played by Alain Delon, lives in near silence, moves like a ghost, and follows his own deadly code. The blueprint for every stoic killer in cinema, Army of Shadows, about the French resistance in World War II. No romance, no glory, just betrayal, waiting, death, and quiet sacrifice. Cold, bleak, masterful. Le Cercle Rouge, a slow-burn heist film about fate pulling together criminals and cops into a quiet tragedy. Every frame equals poetry and smoke and shadow. Bob Le Flambeur, the original cool gangster. Inspired American noir, but also paved the way for Ocean's 11. Le Doulos, double crosses and triple crosses, all in sharp coats and shadows. Nothing is what it seems. Melville never talks unless it's necessary. Smokes like he's remembering a lost war. Sleeps in a suit. Watches the world crumble in silence. Knows he's already dead inside, but plays it cool. His style? Minimal dialogue when someone speaks. It means something. Cold color palettes, empty spaces, long silences emotion without saying a word. Trench coats, fedoras, nighttime streets, noir vibes without the melodrama. Guns with honor, the violence is fast, clean, and final. Heist scenes that feel like rituals. Plans executed like dances. His influence is massive. Tarantino copied his structure, homages him constantly. Michael Mann used his visuals and heat. John Woo took his emotional hitmen and added flying bullets. Jim Jarmusch's Ghost Dog is literally Les Samurai with a sword. Melville wasn't just about gangsters. He was about honor in a dishonorable world, about men who felt deeply but expressed it through ritual, silence, and sacrifice. The godfather of Japanese cinema, yet possibly the most Western of Japanese filmmakers. He made films that transcended language, genre, and culture. His samurai are Shakespearean, his settings feel universal, his morality tales are eternal. If you've seen a Western, a Star Wars movie, or any hero assembles a team story, you've seen Kurosawa's DNA. George Lucas, Spielberg, Scorsese, Leone, Tarantino, they all borrowed from, all worshipped him. He didn't just tell stories. He carved human nature into the screen with a katana. His key films are Seven Samurai, the original Assemble the Team story. Seven Ronin, protect a village from bandits. Every modern action movie team-up owes this one everything. Rashomon, one crime, four perspectives. What is truth? What is memory? This broke Western minds and introduced Japanese cinema to the world. Ikiru, a bureaucrat learns he's dying and searches for meaning. Heartbreaking. Human. Probably the most beautiful film about purpose ever made. Yojimbo, a lone samurai walks into a corrupt town, plays both sides, and burns it all down. The blueprint for Clint Eastwood's fistful of dollars in every stoic anti-hero after. Throne of Blood, Macbeth, but with fog, arrows, and samurai. Shakespeare through a no-theater mask. Pure nightmare. Ran, King Lear remixed as a bloody, thunderous epic. A masterpiece of color, chaos, and collapse. Kurosawa's apocalyptic swan song. His style? Dynamic movement. Rain, wind, horses. Bodies in motion. His frames are alive. Wipe transitions that George Lucas totally stole for Star Wars. Composition like a painting. Foreground, middle, background, all in perfect balance. He could make you feel the weight of a single stare, the tragedy of a single decision. Nature as a silent judge. Rain, fog, thunder, on backdrops. Their emotional forces. Themes. Honor versus survival. Truth is subjective. What makes life meaningful? Power corrupts. Always, a good man can still be crushed by fate, but he fights anyway. His legacy. Invented the modern action film with Seven Samurai. Revolutionized narrative structure with Rashomon. Taught directors how to block a scene, stage a battle, or tell a story through weather. Brought Japanese cinema to the world, winning the Venice Golden Lion before Japan even really knew what to make of him. Akira Kurosawa was a philosopher with a camera in addition to being a filmmaker. Not for our amusement, but to teach us how to live and how to die. His characters struggled with honor, duty, and despair. Despite the world burning, Kurosawa's samurai continue to fight. Stan Brakhage was one of the most influential experimental filmmakers in American cinema. But unlike directors who tell stories, Brakhage rejected narrative. His films don't have plots, characters, or dialogue. Instead, they are pure visual experiences, poetry made of light, shadow, rhythm, and texture. He once said, "Imagine an eye unruled by man made laws of perspective, an eye which does not respond to the name of everything, but which must know each object encountered in life through an adventure of perception." Yeah, he was that guy. His visual style was chaotic, unfiltered, and intensely personal. Spliced frames, overexposed films, scratchings, or paintings directly on film stock. Birth, death, decay, sight, and inner visions, nothing was off limits. His films often reflected his internal world, not objective reality. Take, for example, the act of seeing with one's own eyes, a real autopsy shown unfiltered in raw silence. Dog Star Man, a visual odyssey that's considered a cornerstone of avant-garde cinema. Imagine cosmic visions, snowstorms, naked bodies, and superimposed layers of meaning, all without a single word. Watching Brakhage is like trying to remember a dream from 10 years ago. Opening your eyes too fast after staring at the sundae, experiencing visual schizophrenia through pure film grain. You don't understand his films in a traditional way. You feel them like abstract art on celluloid. He redefined the limits of cinema, not just what movies could say, but how they could be felt. His influence can be seen in filmmakers like David Lynch, Terrence Malick, and Gaspar Noé. He made hundreds of films, many just minutes long, but each one is a meditation on vision itself. Gaspar Noé is an Argentinian-born French filmmaker known for crafting intensely provocative, brutal, and psychedelic films that are meant to disturb, disorient, and shake the audience to the core. His cinema is visually overwhelming, psychologically traumatic, deeply polarizing. He's the kind of director whose films often start with warnings, and people walk out halfway through not because they're bored, but because they're shaken. Watching a Gaspar Noé film often feels like having a panic attack in a nightclub, spiraling through a hellish dream, being trapped in your body while everything collapses around you. His work assaults your senses. It's not fun. It's, you'll never forget this, even if you want to. Cinema. Key movies. Irreversible, told in reverse. The film explores revenge, trauma, and time. Contains a notoriously brutal 9-minute assault scene and graphic violence. You feel the time warping and moral collapse. Enter the Void, a psychedelic, first-person experience of death, reincarnation, and the afterlife shot as if you are the floating soul. Neon-drenched Tokyo becomes a purgatory playground. Climax. A dance party spirals into hallucinogenic chaos after everyone is unknowingly drugged. Shot in long takes with spiraling, nauseating camera movements, the line between ecstasy and horror blurs completely. Love, notorious for its unsimulated sex scenes, but at its core, it's a raw, melancholic look at love, loss, and erotic obsession. Emotional chaos through physical intimacy. If you're into experimental, boundary, pushing cinema, directors like Lars von Trier, Nicholas Winding Refn, Harmony Korine, films that challenge rather than comfort, then Gaspar Noé is your guy. Clint Eastwood is a legendary actor known for playing the man with no name in spaghetti westerns and Harry Callahan in the Dirty Harry series. A 2-time Oscar-winning director, Best Director and Picture for Unforgiven and $1 Million Baby. One of the most productive and efficient directors in Hollywood, known for getting films shot under budget and ahead of schedule. Eastwood's directorial style is often understated, but packed with emotional and moral depth. His slow-burn storytelling, minimal dialogue, strong, silent protagonists, moral ambiguity, and personal justice. Themes of aging, regret, redemption. Simple but powerful scores, often composed by Eastwood himself. He lets the story breathe. No flashy cuts, no excessive dialogue. Just patient, focused, grounded cinema. Key films. Unforgiven. A revisionist western that deconstructs the myth of the gunslinger. Explores aging, morality, and the weight of violence. Won 4 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director. $1 Million Baby. A powerful, emotional gut punch of a boxing film. Deals with ambition, father-daughter bonds, and the ethics of mercy killing. Another Best Picture, director win for Eastwood. Gran Torino. A grumpy war veteran confronts his own racism and finds redemption through unexpected friendship. Feels like a self-aware commentary on Eastwood's own legacy. American Sniper. The story of Navy SEAL Chris Kyle. Patriotism, trauma, and the psychological cost of war. Mystic River. A dark, brooding crime drama about childhood trauma and fatal misunderstandings. Letters from Iwo Jima. A rare American film told from the Japanese perspective during World War II. Subtle, humane, heartbreaking. He represents old-school masculinity, but not cartoonish. It's rugged, tired, worn down. A belief in personal code and consequence, his characters often do the right thing, even when it breaks them. A man who's been around too long, seen too much, and still finds something worth protecting. He doesn't tell you how to feel. He just shows you how a man feels when the world changes around him. He shoots 1 or 2 takes, doesn't yell action, and prefers naturalism over perfection. If you love moral dilemmas, appreciate quiet character studies, are into themes of legacy, aging, masculinity, justice, then Eastwood is your guy. Jean-Luc Godard was the revolutionary voice of the French New Wave, a movement that flipped traditional filmmaking on its head in the late 1950s and 60s. He was a theorist, critic, philosopher, and provocateur, in addition to being a director. According to him, movies ought to push their audience, break their own conventions, and serve as a medium for existential, artistic, and political expression. He believed a story should have a beginning, middle, and end, but not necessarily in that order. Godard made movies like a man with a camera and an idea, but not necessarily a plan. Godard's directorial signature. Jump cuts. Yes, he popularized that. Breaking the fourth wall, quoting philosophy, literature, cinema, politics, mid-dialogue, calling attention to the fact that you're watching a film, minimalist acting, fragmented narrative, radical editing. Key films to understand Godard. Breathless. 1960, his debut, and a landmark of French New Wave. Used jump cuts, real locations, improvised dialogue, and broke every rule. It's cool, rebellious, and felt alive in a way no Hollywood film did. Pier le Fou, a lover's on-the-run story that deconstructs itself constantly, full of color, violence, poetry, and existential rambling. Weekend, a frenzied mockery of middle-class culture. Features a continuous 10-minute shot capturing a traffic jam. Characters pause during the movie to talk about Marxism. Farewell to Language, a 3D experimental movie created in his 80s that renders most contemporary films seem mild, continuing to shatter conventions even when nearly sightless. Godard is a cinema professor who smokes 12 cigarettes while calling Spielberg boring. He invented the jump cut, broke the fourth wall, shredded film grammar. Films are debates in motion. Godard talks at you, but also about you, made movies that feel like essays with jazz and bullets. Not casual, but if you love ideas, he'll change the way you think about movies. Who should watch Godard? Cinephiles who want to go deeper into the philosophy of film. Filmmakers looking to break the rules intentionally. Viewers tired of formula and craving something intellectually raw. Christopher Nolan is a British-American filmmaker, widely regarded as one of the most influential modern directors. He's the rare blend of art house mind with blockbuster execution, big-budget spectacle that still respects your intelligence, a director whose name alone can sell tickets even for a 3-hour biopic about a physicist. He's the guy who made mind-bending cinema mainstream. Nolan's directorial signature. Non-linear storytelling and obsession with time. Intellectual puzzles disguised as action thrillers. Characters with dual identities, guilt, or emotional trauma. Recurring themes of memory, perception, dreams, and reality. Cool, detached emotional tone. Epic, pulsating scores. Often with Hans Zimmer. Shoots on IMAX. Uses practical effects wherever possible. Rarely uses CGI unless absolutely necessary. Loves exposition. A bit too much sometimes. Key films that define Nolan. Memento, a thriller told backwards, about a man with short-term memory loss. The film mirrors the character's mental state, confusing, frustrating, brilliant. This film made put Nolan on radar in the Hollywood. The Dark Knight trilogy elevated superhero films into serious cinema. The Dark Knight is widely considered the best comic book movie ever made. Introduced gritty realism, moral complexity, and unforgettable villains. Inception, a dream-heist sci-fi puzzle that made the world collectively question what was real. We need to go deeper, became a pop culture phrase. And the iconic ending, the spinning top. Interstellar, a space epic about time dilation, love, and quantum physics. Emotionally cold to some, but philosophically grand. Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions. Dunkirk, a World War II film told in 3 different timelines. Land, 1 week. Sea, 1 day. Air, 1 hour. Intense structure, pure cinematic experience. Tenet, his most Nolanish film ever. Involves inverted time, cryptic dialogue, and massive scale. You either loved it or had no idea what was going on. Oppenheimer, a historical biopic turned psychological thriller. No action scenes, just intense moral tension and political power struggles. Won multiple Oscars, proving Nolan could do real-world horror just as well. Nolan wants the audience to think. He structures his films like puzzles you're meant to piece them together. He respects cinema as a sensory and intellectual medium, loud, large, but thoughtful. His storytelling is often about control versus chaos, fate versus free will, and how time alters perception, his directing philosophy. I try to make films that allow people to experience time in a different way. He believes form is as important as content. The way the story is told affects the meaning just as much as the story itself. Watching Nolan feels like solving a Rubik's Cube while skydiving, having your mind blown in IMAX, asking, wait, what? While still loving every second. Who should watch Nolan? Anyone who loves a mix of intellect and action, people who enjoy films that require rewatching, cinephiles who like structure-driven narratives, fans of cinematic scale, precision, and ambition. Orson Welles was an American director, actor, writer, and producer whose first feature film, Citizen Kane, is still hailed as one of the greatest films ever made. He was a boy wonder, a Hollywood outcast, and a legendary innovator who reshaped what cinema could be and paid the price for it. Before he even made a movie, Welles was famous for directing Broadway plays in his 20s, creating the War of the Worlds radio broadcast that panicked America into thinking aliens had landed, being seen as a prodigy. His directorial signature, deep focus cinematography, everything in the frame sharp, near to far, extreme low-angle shots, unusual perspectives, non-linear storytelling, unreliable narrators, heavy use of voiceovers, radio-like narrative tone, expressionist lighting, stark shadows, film noir aesthetics, Shakespearean tragedy plus political allegory. Welles added painting, radio, and stage to his arsenal of cinematic tools. Not only did he narrate stories, but he also changed the way that stories could be told on screen. Key films. Citizen Kane, the Mount Everest of film school. The rise and fall of newspaper tycoon Charles Foster Kane inspired by real-life mogul William Randolph Hearst. He invented, or popularized, dozens of techniques: deep focus, flashback structure, non-linear narrative. Welles co-wrote, directed, produced, and starred at 25 years old. The Magnificent Ambersons, a melancholic portrait of a once great family in decline. Studio interference butchered Welles's cut, marking the beginning of his lifelong battle with Hollywood. Touch of Evil, one of the greatest film noirs ever. Famous for its 3-minute-long opening tracking shot, Welles plays a corrupt police captain opposite Charlton Heston. Chimes at Midnight, a passion project combining scenes from 5 Shakespeare plays. Welles as Falstaff, a tragic figure of loyalty and betrayal. Hugely influential, but underappreciated in its time. F for Fake, a dazzling, playful documentary/essay film about art, forgery, and truth. Broke the fourth wall, played with editing, and deconstructed nonfiction decades before it was cool. Welles was once the Hollywood golden boy, then exiled from the system he helped evolve. Labeled difficult, often self-funding projects no one else would touch. Struggled to finish films, but still changed cinema forever. Welles' core themes: the fall of great men, Kane, Ambersons, Falstaff, all doomed, identity, illusion, and the masks people wear. Time, memory, and the futility of legacy. The idea that art itself is manipulation and storytelling is a kind of lie. Watching Welles feels like listening to a haunted, brilliant old man tell stories about what could have been, seeing film not just as entertainment, but as a living, breathing art form, learning how style and substance can merge seamlessly. Who should watch Welles? Film students. He's literally in every syllabus. Directors and storytellers who want to innovate without permission, anyone who loves Shakespeare, tragedy, or post-war cinema, people who like the phrase, too ahead of his time. Stanley Kubrick was an American filmmaker widely considered one of the greatest directors in cinema history. He was a perfectionist, a genre shapeshifter, an obsessive control freak, in the best way, the kind of director who redefined every genre he touched. He didn't just make films. He created monuments to cinema, sculpted frame by frame with surgical precision. Kubrick's directorial signature: emotionally cold but intellectually piercing, symmetry and geometric composition, repetition and cyclical storytelling, wide-angle lenses and one-point perspective, unconventional or classical music choices, characters slowly descend into madness, alienation, or despair. Obsessively clean, precise production design. Every frame feels like it was written, directed, lit, and rewritten 1,000 times. Kubrick didn't care if you were entertained. He wanted you to be absorbed, uncomfortable, and forced to think. Kubrick's key films, and why they matter. 2001, A Space Odyssey. I really thought this movie was released in 2001 when I first watched. A sci-fi masterpiece about evolution, technology, and consciousness. Minimal dialogue, slow pacing, and deep symbolism. Hell is more emotional than the humans, and that's the point. Watching this feels like communing with aliens. A Clockwork Orange, a dystopian satire on violence, control, and free will. Disturbing, stylish, and philosophical. Malcolm McDowell's Alex is one of cinema's most iconic anti-heroes. The Shining, horror as psychological disintegration. Every hallway, whisper, and stare is soaked in unease. The camera moves like a ghost. The hotel feels alive. Here's Johnny, maybe famous, but it's the silence that scars. Full Metal Jacket, a war film split in two, boot camp hell and battlefield nihilism. Sergeant Hartman is both terrifying and hilarious, shows how war dehumanizes from the inside out. Dr. Strangelove, a political satire where nuclear apocalypse is played for laughs. Peter Sellers plays three characters, dark, brilliant, absurd, and terrifyingly relevant. Barry Lyndon, a period drama that looks like a museum painting come to life. Lit by natural light and candlelight, literally. Slow, tragic, and visually hypnotic. Eyes Wide Shut, his final film. A psychological mystery about fidelity, sex, and hidden societies. Released posthumously and still debated today. Kubrick's Obsessions. Free will versus control, madness, especially in men. The cold machinery of society. How institutions, military, marriage, government, crush the individual. How emotion is muted beneath logic and symmetry. Kubrick didn't tell you how to feel. He'd rather trap you in a maze and let the dread grow. Who should watch Kubrick? Anyone who loves cinema as a thinking medium, viewers interested in dark human psychology, fans of form over sentiment, filmmakers looking to learn from the most disciplined visual mind in film history. Konstantin Lopushansky is a Ukrainian Soviet director, student of Andrei Tarkovsky. He is best known for his post-apocalyptic spiritual films that explore human suffering, morality, and metaphysical longing. His key films are Dead Man's Letters. Imagine surviving nuclear annihilation, living in a fallout shelter, writing letters to a possibly dead son. It's basically Tarkovsky's Stalker with more radiation and less hope. A visitor to a museum. The world is flooded and poisoned, yet people seek meaning. The main character goes on a pilgrimage that turns into a spiritual breakdown. The Ugly Swans, based on the Strugatsky brothers' sci-fi novel. Children evolve spiritually and intellectually while adults are hopeless. A true Lopushansky brain melter. Themes: post-humanism, spiritual apocalypse, moral collapse, the burden of knowledge, decay of civilization, silence of God after disaster. Visual style: bleak fog, covered wastelands, monochrome desolation, haunting choral music, long takes with minimal action but maximal emotion. Often feels like you're watching a dying soul dream. The undisputed master of suspense. A British filmmaker who revolutionized thrillers, turning cinema into an exercise in psychological tension. He didn't just want you to watch the story, he wanted you to feel like an accomplice to its secrets. His key films are Psycho, that shower scene redefined horror. He killed off the lead actress halfway through the film. Unheard of, right? Rear Window. A man spies on his neighbors and may witness a murder. It's about voyeurism, paralysis, and guilt. Vertigo. A detective's obsession turns into a psychological spiral. A slow burn study in manipulation and delusion. North by Northwest. Espionage, mistaken identity, and iconic set pieces. Pure, stylish thrills. The Birds. Nature Strikes Back. No music, just terror in feathers. Technique. Suspense is greater than surprise. He believed tension is best built by what the audience knows, not sudden jumps. MacGuffin. A meaningless object that drives the plot. We don't care what it is, just why people want it. Cameos. Yes, he loved inserting himself into his movies. Blink and you'll miss him. Point of view shots. You become the character or the stalker. Hitchcock is the smug film bro who calls everything Hitchcockian, and is kind of right. Explains suspense by talking about a bomb under the table, probably thinks about murder too calmly, wears a suit while committing psychological warfare on the audience, is both the puppet master and the puppet. Italian filmmaker, born 1922, murdered in 1975, still a mysterious and controversial case. A Marxist, a Catholic, and an openly gay man in post-war Italy, this made him both iconic and inflammatory. His cinema blends myth, politics, sexuality, and suffering into haunting poetic imagery. A true radical. He didn't care about narrative conventions, censorship, or popularity. He cared about truth, even if it was ugly. His key films, aka acts of cinematic defiance. Acatone, his first film about a pimp in the Roman slums. Gritty neo-realist, drenched in Catholic guilt. Ends in existential agony. The Gospel according to Matthew, a raw, reverent retelling of Jesus' life without sentimentality. Stripped of miracles, full of fire and dirt. Even the Vatican praised it. Teorema, A mysterious man, played by Terence Stamp, seduces every member of a bourgeois family and then disappears. The family descends into spiritual and existential ruin. Allegory? Yes. Weird? Extremely. Pasolini? Absolutely. Medea. Greek myths retold as psychoanalytic political allegories. With Maria Callas as Medea. Yes, that Maria Callas. The 120 Days of Sodom, his final film. And possibly the most disturbing film ever made. Adaptation of the Marquis de Sade's work, but set in fascist Italy. Graphic, brutal, perverse. A screaming allegory of power, fascism, and dehumanization. Banned in multiple countries. He was murdered shortly after its release. He was obsessed with poverty and the lives of the marginalized, the intersection of sacred and profane, the decay of modernity, and the loss of meaning in consumerist societies. Pasolini didn't want to entertain you. He wanted to confront you, haunt you, politicize you, and sometimes disturb you beyond repair. Themes in Pasolini's work. Power corrupts absolutely especially. Fascist, religious, and bourgeois power. Sexuality as both liberation and control. Myth as modern truth. Religion versus materialism. The body as battleground. Beauty and violence. Intertwined. He merged Marxist ideology, Freudian psychology, and Catholic imagery into films that look like biblical tragedies shot in a burning garbage heap. Pasolini's style. Stark realism, raw faces, dirty landscapes, often used non-professional actors, deliberate pacing, ritualistic structures, bold, disturbing imagery, paired with classical music, philosophical monologues disguised as dialogue. Pasolini is the person who just quoted Dante, Marx, and Jesus in the same sentence, thinks modern consumer culture is worse than fascism, thinks art should be dangerous, and beauty should be earned through pain, walks barefoot through the ruins of history, filming like a prophet, would rather be hated and right than loved and soft. Watching Pasolini feels like being dragged through the mud of humanity's sins while someone whispers poetry into your ear. Experiencing Catholic guilt, Marxist anger, and surreal ecstasy at once. Feeling ashamed, enlightened, and slightly traumatized. Who should watch Pasolini? People who crave cinema as moral, political, and spiritual confrontation, viewers drawn to poetry, pain, and provocation. Those who want to wrestle with meaning, not be spoon-fed stories. Anyone who wants to understand why art still has the power to offend and awaken. The king of underground cinema's chaos started as the screenwriter of Kids at 19, a film so raw it felt illegal. Then spiraled into his own directing with films that feel like a mix of art gallery installations, American Decay, and TikTok nightmares before TikTok existed. He creates stories about the people society discards skaters, drifters, addicts, fame junkies, and forgotten youth. His key films are Gummo, a disturbing and surreal portrait of life in a tornado-struck Ohio town. Kids eat spaghetti in bathtubs, shoot stray cats, and sniff glue. There is no plot, just America. Julian Donkey Boy, shot on DV with Dog Me 95 Rules. A schizophrenic son navigates a broken family. Chaotic and heartbreaking. Trash humpers. Literal VHS footage of people in old man masks humping trash cans and causing chaos in suburbia. It's performance art from hell. Spring Breakers. A sugar-coated neon crime ballet starring Disney girls turned wild. Spring Break. Forever. The Beach Bum. Matthew McConaughey as a weed-smoking poet in a tropical haze of hedonism and vibes. His technique? Non-narrative structures. Plots are suggestions, not mandates. Amateur actors plus real locals. He casts real people for their faces, not their talent. Soundtrack flips. Juxtaposes serene music with violent visuals. Themes. Decay of American youth. Beauty and ugliness. Chaos versus control. Fame, delusion, addiction, nihilism with pastel sprinkles, freedom at any cost. Visual style. Feels like watching security footage of a dream. Neon lighting, handheld cameras, extreme close-ups. Raw, unpolished, intentionally jarring. Mixes beauty and filth, art and trash, without warning. Korine is that one art school dropout who films everything on a camcorder and talks about vibe-based storytelling. Claims the chaos is intentional, and somehow it is. Dresses like a Florida meth wizard and still gets critical acclaim. Doesn't care if you like his films, he barely likes them himself. Is always 5 steps ahead and 1 foot in the gutter. Japan's most beloved animation director and co-founder of Studio Ghibli. He crafts magical realism for the soul stories where kids fly, spirits cry, and everything. Even soot has feelings. But behind every fantasy is a deep critique of war, capitalism, and ecological destruction. He's the ultimate films for children that adults cry through director, both soft-hearted dreamer and grumpy perfectionist. His essential films: My Neighbor Totoro. Two girls meet a forest spirit while their mom is sick. No villain, just vibes, trees, and the sound of wind. Spirited Away, a coming-of-age odyssey through a bathhouse for spirits. Capitalism meets Japanese folklore, meets frogs working customer service. Princess Mononoke. Nature fights back. Boars scream, gods die, humans destroy, but no one's truly evil. Howl's Moving Castle, a literal walking castle. War, magic, love. A bird boy wizard with commitment issues. Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, post-apocalyptic eco-warrior girl rides a glider and talks to insects. Kiki's Delivery Service, a teenage witch deals with burnout and creative block. Relatable at 13 and 30. His techniques: hand-drawn animation, meticulous, warm, and human. Long silent scenes called Ma, the quiet in-between moments that let emotions breathe. Flying sequences. He's obsessed with flight. Every movie has it. Planes, gliders, broomsticks, even walking castles. Food scenes. Unnecessarily delicious. Every meal is animated with love and hunger. No pure villains. Everyone is complex. Even the bad guys just want something human. Core themes: nature versus industry. Trees cry. Forests scream. Machines pollute. Anti-war. Every bomb is a tragedy. Every child deserves peace. Female leads. Brave, kind, curious, imperfect. Growing up. Kids stepping into adult roles. Carrying burdens too big for their age. Freedom. Not just political, but spiritual. To fly. To dream. To choose kindness. Empathy. Even the stink spirit just needed a bath. Miyazaki is the gentle old anime uncle who's always sad about war and hopeful about children. Wears a smock, draws for 10 hours a day, hates cell phones. Believes in magic, but also yells at clouds. Has retired 5 times, but cannot stop animating. Thinks the world is dying, but still wants to make it beautiful for kids. The German filmmaker who treats cinema like a spiritual battlefield. A man who once said, "I believe the common denominator of the universe is not harmony, but chaos, hostility, and murder." That should tell you everything. Whether it's fiction or documentary, Herzog's films are about people consumed by obsession, often facing the wrath of nature or their own madness. His key films are Akira, The Wrath of God. A conquistador loses his mind in the jungle, chasing a dream of El Dorado. Filmed in brutal, real conditions. Fitzcarraldo. A man wants to build an opera house in the Amazon and literally hauls a steamship over a mountain. Herzog did it for real. No CGI. Pure obsession. Grizzly Man. A documentary about Timothy Treadwell, who lived and died among grizzly bears. Herzog doesn't glorify him, he shows the indifference of nature. Strozjek. A mentally ill man moves to America hoping for a better life. It's bleak, strange, tragic, and somehow hilarious. Lessons of Darkness. A haunting, wordless documentary about post-Gulf War oil fires in Kuwait. It's like looking at hell through a philosopher's lens. Herzog's signatures are voiceover. Calm, deep, haunting. His narration feels like it's coming from the void. Real danger. He hates fake. He puts himself and his crew through real danger if it serves the art. Blurred line between fact and fiction. Even in documentaries, he believes in ecstatic truth, not literal truth. The jungle, the desert, the ice. Nature isn't beautiful, it's brutal and godless, and we're ants. Herzog is the guy who reads Nietzsche at a party while staring at a dead bird. Drinks black coffee at 4 a.m. in silence after watching a documentary about volcanoes. Thinks joy is fleeting, but sublime pain is eternal. Would carry a camera into a war zone just to ask someone, "Do you feel alone in the universe?" Feels more at home in a rainforest than at a film premiere.